In the months ahead, I will leave the Department of Justice, but I will never leave the work. I will continue to serve and try to find ways to make our nation even more true to its founding ideals.
Eric Holder announcing Thursday that he will step down as Attorney General of the United States after 6 years. He's one of just 3 cabinet members who have been with President Obama from the beginning and has proven to be one of the most polarizing members of his administration. Here with a look back at his tenure in the Justice Department is Wall Street Journal Potomac Watch columnist Kim Strassel and editorial board member Dorothy Rabinowitz. So, Dorothy, what do you make of the legacy of Eric Holder at Justice?
Inflammatory is the key word. I think that he will go down as the most divisive Attorney General. He's been called that before.
How so? Yes, well, that's a common view.
Yes.
How so?
Well, he has done this. He has given immediately, almost the moment he took office, the impression that he was not the Attorney General of all the American people. He was the Attorney General of some of the American people, people of color. He was there as the activist, civil libertarian, which is not the role of the Attorney General. He proceeded then, over the years he's been here, to do things to increase this impression.
Give us a couple examples.
Yes, for example, he went marching into a judicial battle with the states that wished to curtail illegal immigration. Arizona, for instance, said that the government had the right. It was not the state's right.
But he won in court on that.
This is the case. But he refused to prosecute. Now, this may seem minor. If you've taken this position that justice is so important, it stands out when you refuse to prosecute or even look into the case of some Philadelphia black activists who literally bullied, provably, people at the polls, white people, white elderly people. It was of no interest to him. The accretion of all of these things. But to me, the most important and the most insidious thing that Eric Holder did was to increase the level of racial paranoia in this country to the degree that even as late as this summer, he went before the Reverend Al's commission group.
Al Sharpton.
Yes, and he announced that no other president, no other attorney general had been so mistreated. He meant by a congressional committee. What he meant was exactly the reflection of everything that Obama supporters have meant, which is to criticize the president is to be expressing white racism.
Okay, that is precisely what you talked about is what the people on the left give him credit for,
yes.
Kim. But what the liberals are criticizing Eric Holder for is not prosecuting a single big banker or financier for the 2008 financial crisis. And they blame him for that and say that's his biggest failure. What do you make of that line?
Yeah. I mean, extraordinary, because, look, this is a guy who, in addition to the things that Dorothy has been talking about, he also pretty much gave over the Justice Department to the left's feelings of populism and very aggressively prosecuted all of these cases against Wall Street banks, often without much evidence. And this was clearly done out of a sort of sense of need for retribution after the 2008 financial meltdown.
But, Kim, he didn't. What they're saying is he didn't prosecute any individuals. It's true that in the second term he went after the big banks and exacted huge settlements on what I would argue are dubious grounds. But they're blaming him for not indicting any individuals and finding them as criminal. What do you? Is that a failure, or is that in fact a success because he couldn't find that they actually broke any laws?
Right. You can only stretch the law so far. And as you said, these cases he brought were fairly dubious. And my point about this being extraordinary was the fact that despite having oriented so much of the Justice Department toward this campaign, they're still not satisfied with the legacy of Eric Holder on that, which does say something about the impulses of a lot of the people who are supporters of Barack Obama.
Yeah, I think the worst thing he did was that lawsuit against Louisiana vouchers in private school, where he said that this lawsuit said that they were violating desegregation statutes from 30, 40 years ago because of the fact that the black children, minority children, could escape lousy schools and were going to better schools where they didn't like the new racial mix.
Well, this was using a model called disparate impact, which is a statistical analysis of the racial composition of virtually anything. And the Holder Justice Department did take action against fire departments for their hiring practices, police departments such as the police department in Newark because there was a disparate impact on their arrests and stops on the street. They did a settlement with the Newark police. They have filed a suit against the Pennsylvania State Police on that basis. They have filed suits against cities and school systems. And this is pushing beyond what people normally think as civil rights, where you need an overt, explicit act of discrimination. This is a statistical analysis. And so I think overall what Eric Holder has done is push these things to the point where he's increased the divisions inside the political system in Washington, using the power of the Justice Department to get things he couldn't get in the legislature.